Hello.
Close. All right, now. Okay, got me there.
What's that EVGA box in the back?
Shh. I can't tell you about all my secrets and old things that I have.
It's like, you don't have any G-force in there. You're all Quadro.
I had that. Okay, okay. Hold up. That was the last Quadro or the last G-Force that I bought. It is a Titan. Um, Gosh, Moses, it's a Titan something. My hair is all over the place today. Got me a nice little local boy outfitters. You gotta have a little dog for yourself tonight. Going, slumming it just a little bit now. Nah, it's all good. Oh no, and I was telling what I sent you earlier though too, Chris. Okay, y'all, you're gonna enjoy this. We're all over the place tonight, guys, because the amount of information that has come out. First of all, we are live, so for those of you that are joining us, thank you.
Oh,
Um,
the
what?
audio keeps it's sounding real bad every now and then. Yours.
Mine is sounding real bad. Maybe it's because I need to bump my gain because it's kind of low. How about that? Getting a little better.
Sure.
Those of you
I don't know.
oh, is it? Are you talking about in Teams?
I just hear so Teams.
Okay. Um, those of you that are watching, if you hear the audio bad, please comment in the chat. Um, I will actually reply as myself. Chris will likely reply as the IT guys because he's got that stuff set up. I like to reply as myself because then it means we at least get a viewer for the time that we're doing it. So we were told that we'd have some folks. Ooh, God, that's gonna be really bad. I'm peeking over here. Cut down just a little bit. Check one, two. Check one, two. My right side's a little. Check one. Check one. Check one. There we go. Hopefully, I'm not gonna peek this thing out too much. I'll move my mic a little further away too to help with that. Um, I mean, obviously, I'm working on a decent little blue mic that's actually running through an audio interface. That's something I was showing you earlier, Chris, which is why we're kind of joking about it. Was the audio to like the interface setup for like a digital analog converter. Um, I have like it's just basically a USB box that takes audio in and turns it out so that it's something that's visible to people or audible to people. But it also has like a audio out for it as well. So press my sound some too. Check one, two, check one, two, check one, two. Oof, seems interesting. Maybe that's better. All right, we'll get back to it though. According to things, we got 4 viewers now. Hopefully, everybody's here to watch and have a good time as we're going to talk about a lot of CPU information. So, a lot of things have come out. Our
Almost
rundown,
all.
yeah, I was gonna say our
Almost
rundown is pretty crazy right now. So,
almost all processor.
there's some GPU news. There's some GPU news.
Almost. I said almost.
I know. There's also some out there discussion about some stuff too that'll be there. For those wondering, because there's a lot we can kind of garner from the announcement about Hopper at GTC. There's also a lot we can garner from the launch of the ARC graphics cards too. So there will be some discussion. Like I said, it's not in the rundown because my tale was I wrote this thing when I was at the beach like almost a month ago. I mean, it's literally been like right after that last episode, I started working on this. I was like, holy crap, there's so much stuff coming out. And we're going to skip around in it because I want to talk about a couple of different things in a couple of different ways. This may last well over an hour. This may last well over an hour and a half. So for those of you that come in and join, feel free to make a comment. Feel free to yell at us, tell us we're awful, tell Chris he looks beautiful and that I look ugly. I mean, I don't really care, but this is going to be a fun one. So let's get ready. All right. That's one thing I keep thinking about, Chris. We need some intro music. I should commission the band to write us an intro song,
That'd be cool.
or just
That'd be cool.
get the permission of the band to run it as an intro song. I guess I wonder how I could do that, because I mean, it is out there. But that's beside the fact. I'm a drummer, guys, so I'm in a band. Ooh, maybe I'll just write it on GarageBand. Another idea. Then it's definitely free. All right, so just to run down a quick bit of the rundown. So Threadripper Pro Zen 3, the 5000 series of Threadripper Pro has launched. There's no announcement about regular Threadripper, and that's okay. But it is Zen 3. It is got a new bumped up max turbo. They did add a 24 core, which kind of to me confirms there's probably not going to be a regular Threadripper. Apple launches a, they want to call it a desktop, you know, a competitive desktop, but it's closer to mid-range in my opinion. With the Apple Mac Studio and an M1 Ultra chip. Intel launches a workstation-focused W680. Intel also launches the Arc lineup, starting off with the low-end laptop. Hopper hops into the picture. So GTC launches Hopper. There's a lot of other stuff to go over for this week, so just get yourself prepared, get your boots on. We're going to muck through it, so let's get into it. Bring this up first, because like I said, we're gonna actually start with the M1 Ultra today in the Mac Studio.
Oh, okay.
And the reason that I wanted to start with that one is because I want to get to the high end after we get to the low end. You know, that's kind of, and the high end is definitely going to be our good old boy Threadripper Pro. So let me swap over real quick to the display section. Oh, wrong one was pulled up. That's okay. M1 Ultra. So basically the M1 Max is now got its red-headed stepchild cousin, the M1 Ultra. All right, so this is what's going into the new Studio, Mac Studio. And this is basically what I'm going to lovingly call a fat Mac Mini, a thick boy, so everybody can see it. I'll pull up the images of it real quick. That's thick boy, Chris. That's a thick boy. I don't know about you, but
how many C's? 2 C's or 3 C's?
No, that's 2 C's and a which could be Thunderbolt 4, and then an SD card reader on the front. On the back, it's got a lot more, but I mean, let's go over here and look at the photos real quick. So it's got 4 Thunderbolt 4s or USB 3.0 or USB 3.10 gig. It does have 2 USB A's on the back, which is kind of shocking. It has a headphone jack on the back. Right next to the power button. And I watched a great video on this from somebody who was like, I'm happy they've got this low impedance, high gain setup, but like, Apple, come on. If I'm fiddling around trying to put a headphone in there, or plug headphones in, how likely is it going to be that I accidentally hit the power button? You know, I mean, that's kind of at least put it on the other side away from the power button kind of deal. It's my thought, but you know, Apple does what Apple does. It does come, and guys, I can't tell you this enough. One thing I'm loving that we're starting to get in workstations more and more is 10 gig onboard 10 gig Ethernet. It does come with 10 gig Ethernet on board. Guys, it's 2022. Why are we putting 1 gig Ethernet on the motherboard anymore? I mean, I would rather, honest to God, you just not put an Ethernet port and put like a high speed Wi-Fi connection back there than put a 1 gig. What's the point? There is no point anymore. Let's be real. Says the man who is running off of 10 gig Ethernet. Oof, I told you, did I tell you I bought a 8-port 10 gig switch finally?
I think so.
Yeah, it's nice. I like having all my ports that I want to run to things 10 gig. It's going to make my future so much nicer. But So continuing forward, it does have an HDMI port on the back. The Thunderbolt ports do act just like display ports, so you can definitely use those to have as many of those way overpriced Mac Studio displays as you would like. Which don't even get me started on that. We're not going to talk about that too much more. It does talk about comparing itself to a 16-core Windows desktop. I do want to see if they have the slides in here that show that, because that would just
and a 28 core. So above the picture, it mentions a 28 core.
Yeah, they compare it to they compare it to Cascade Lake. All right, come on, guys, come on.
Lame.
It's Cascade Lake. Like that's you're putting a 20 core against a modern 20 core that's on a much smaller, much better node. I don't want to say smaller, but much better node. And you're putting it up against a 14 nanometer node from Intel that clearly, I mean, guys, I'm not even going to be surprised by that. I do want to go down to this slide right here, the CPU power versus performance, the 16-core desktop. They do mention in here somehow that that they did compare it to a Alder Lake CPU, not to a Ryzen Zen 3 5950X, which kind of is disappointing to me. I would think that you would want to compare it to the best of the best, and realistically, when it comes to, this is designed for content creators. This is not designed for gaming. So why you would compare this machine to a gaming design, and yes, people talk about the Intel chip being designed for content creation with its big and little cores, but realistically, guys, let's get over ourselves. That's not the case. Like, if you're going for content creation right now, you're really leaning more AMD. There's a lot of programs that are single threaded and so on and so forth, where Alder Lake stomps that to a degree, but that's only because Zen 4 is not here yet. So we'll have to see what happens then. And the other thing that kills me is they don't really compare it to a Threadripper Pro or Threadripper CPU. Like, if you're talking about content creation, why aren't you putting this up against a 24-core or 24-core Zen 2 Threadripper, or a 24-core or a 32-core Threadripper Pro Zen 2? I would have liked to see those kind of comparisons, because that's really what workstations are going after, and those are more seemingly priced. I would assume, to what you're paying for these things.
It's strange to compare it to their $50,000 Cascade Lake Mac Pro,
Yep.
but not a $50,000 Threadripper Pro.
Or yeah, because guess what?
Or whatever.
Probably doesn't beat it there, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of people that think that we love Intel over here, and don't get me wrong, I have my caveats to things about AMD's processors, but at the same time, like, you got to acknowledge where they're dominant. And in the workstation market right now, like, unless you have a specific case where A, you need AVX512, or B, your software just runs better on Intel because it was developed and designed for that. I mean, if you're buying Intel, or if you're trying to compare a Mac to an Intel, that's literally like comparing apples to oranges. I mean, let's get real with ourselves here. So the M1 Ultra, it's the new guy on the block. It's making the debut. But let's also take a second to talk about this too. This thing is expensive. I mean, okay, we're on the rabbit hole. We're going to continue the rabbit hole.
What does it cost?
Yep. We're going to look out. We're going to look at something comparable. That's how I want to do this. So we're going to go to Mac. We're going to go to Mac Studio. We're not going to look at that stupid display, but we're going to go to Mac Studio. Oh, look, it's from 1999. I call bull crap. Okay, sorry. Had to get that out of the way. All right, so if you want the bad boy, you're starting at $4,000. And you're starting at $4,000 with only 64 gigs of RAM. I mean, I can't tell you. All right, so once again, let's do something comparative. We'll pull Dell or we'll pull Lenovo up because I've been hyping on some Lenovo recently. Lenovo's got a lot of cool products out there. But we'll pull that up here in a second. But yeah, let's see what a fully configured machine is. All right, so if I want the 64 core GPU and the 21, all right, I'm at $5,000 now. Eight.
I wonder what a comparable video card is like from Nvidia.
I mean, realistically, they try to compare it to the 38 to the 3090, but they compare it in power usage, and we've seen that the 3090 stomps it in like Geekbench. Obviously, it uses more power, but let's back up and say we compare it to it's probably closer to along the lines personally of like an RTX A4000 or A4500 type design.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not going to
Big difference.
It's a big difference in power. All right, let's say you just want 4 terabytes of storage, which I've seen in teardowns. There is a separate M.2 slot in there. You could expand this, but 4 terabytes of storage, which should be normal for any kind of content creation. And look at that right there. We are at $6,800 before shipping and what you middle up or $566.58 for 12 months.
Oh.
And guess what? You can pick it up on Tuesday, July 19th.
I wonder what let's see, what do I sell?
You could buy a 128 gig because 32 gigs DIMMs are out. I'm not wanting to reference you because you're customized.
It's a different.
It's a difference.
It's a different price class. Yeah,
it is. But let's just base it down to the hardware. You could very easily buy a 16 core.
How much RAM have we got?
Zen 3.
128.
Huh? 128.
Um,
And that's the top because guess what? Apple gets to decide what the top is for you.
Our default i9 CAD build is like 7100, and that's from a small custom builder. So to be at roughly that cost, a couple $100.
Okay. Before I go to Lenovo, let's talk about the workstation. Let's talk about the P620. So, Threadripper Pro launches, folks. This is the storage review article. I like these guys because they kind of talk things through a little bit more in depth than some folks. And they actually have a Threadripper Pro in their studio now, I think, too. So they're doing some content creation on. But since Apple is selling this Mac Pro or this Mac Studio for content creators, Houston, we have an update to the P620, which is not going to be a Lenovo exclusive, but for a short time. There will be other folks on the market available to build it, like Chris, in a couple of months. Though me and Chris will talk a little bit about how we have some caveats and some mild issues with that. But it is a new architecture. It is Zen 3. It is 12, 16, 24, 36, and 64 core variants of Threadripper Pro 5000.
32?
Yep.
32 core?
32. Why did I say 36? I'm mathematically challenged, guys. Whew. 32 core. Sorry. I must have had dyslexia typing that. I occasionally do that when I type. Thanks for not proofreading for me, Chris. I appreciate that very much. With this release, though, once again, they added a 24 core. That wasn't available last gen, and I think that wasn't available, like I said earlier, Chris, because it was kind of satisfied by the regular Threadripper market.
Right.
But since it seems like there isn't a launch of Threadripper Pro or Threadripper Zen 3 on the horizon anytime soon, we can kind of we're making some assumptions here, but we can kind of make that assumption that all right, so we're not getting a 24 core Threadripper for the mass market, so we're going to go ahead and build one for Threadripper Pro. And it was something that, the way I understand it, talking to some of my contacts with AMD, it was one of those things that I had been told was kind of people like Epic Games, who are big time users of this, would really speaking towards their desire for a 24 core option, especially for some of their specific designers and whatnot, because you don't really need a 32 core option. But if 16 was all you had, you kind of wanted to bump up to give some more horsepower for some of the more computationally difficult models. And it's, you know, it is what it is. We'll look at it that way, guys. Where they're getting up. So here's some of the kind of qualifications and specs over it. So it's got a 4.1 gigahertz base for the 12 core, which is up from 4 gigahertz. It goes up to 4.5 as opposed to 4.3. All of them are up to 4.5 as opposed to 4.3, and the 4.2 for the 32 core and the 4.2 for the 64 core. They have a base clock speed that's all up about 100 megahertz too, which is helpful. It's just architectural benefits.
Mm-hmm.
The cache is still the same because it's the same, although it is that unified cache across the CCX now. So the CCD is now basically, used to have 2 CCDs per CCX. No, 2 CCXs per CCD. 2 core complexes per core complex die. Now that CCD is 1 CCX. So all of it is now, all of that cache that's available on the 32 megs of cache is now available to all 8 cores on that individual die, which should boost performance substantially for that L3. And obviously this is just the number of dies you get picked up. The 24 core does get the full 128 meg cache because it's getting 4 dies. The 12 and 16 cores are just 2 CCDs, so they're just 2 dies per port. So I mean that makes sense. But all of them have 8-channel memory. All of them have the full 128 PCI Express lanes. You know, saying it's basically Epic in a workstation form with a massively boosted clock speed. You know,
If you remember, like the performance boost going from a 3900X to a 5900X, kind of what you're looking at here, obviously with the additional CCXs and dies, it's going to be more cache, it's going to be more bandwidth. That just comes with having a bigger processor,
yep.
Or bigger package. But the architectural improvement from Zen 2 to Zen 3, that's what's here.
And while I do want to bring this up, while Milan X does have the 3D stacked extra little RAM chiplet on, or not RAM, but it's extra little cache chiplet on top of it. These do not have, these are not 3D stacked, nor do I expect them to be personally. I don't think they're ever going to launch that because there's a lot of heat associated with that extra die space, and that's just something we don't, you know, as the workstation community goes, it's something that we don't want to have to fight too much more.
I was seeing on the 5800X 3D, they like cut overclocking entirely.
They did.
I think clock speeds are down, and you can't overclock because that extra cache just doesn't allow it.
But that's one of the reasons that you have that expansion that we, you know, we're not talking about it too much right now, but it is something that's new. It's been launched. But I don't think it's something to expect for a lot of people. I mean, it's a gaming thing again. This is more your workstation oriented podcast. It's also more workstation oriented in terms of the discussions we have. I don't see that benefiting anybody internally. We're also going to talk about something AMD graphics card related that relates to Autodesk products here too, that I noticed yesterday, and I kind of have to bring it up now that I noticed it. But we'll get there. So it does now support, it does officially now support 2 A6000 graphics cards. You know,
Did it not before? I thought that the P620 supported.
It did, but
NVLink.
It does, and it adds that support. But I'm more mentioning it because the A6000 wasn't technically launched whenever this launched. Right? I just thought about something.
Was Threadripper Pro before the A6000 was launched?
Yeah. Just barely.
Oh,
Just barely, but it was.
I remember that. Yeah, it launched with the. Yep. Okay. Wow.
That's how long
Wait,
ago this has been.
I saw a bit of text on that up to 1 TB of DDR4, but it can do 2 TB with
With
256
256,
gigs.
if you decide you want to put first your firstborn child, yes, it can.
I don't know. I just wonder why. Like, yes, it's 4 times more expensive, and you shouldn't do it. But
It gets back to conversations that I would love to have with Lenovo and all the other OEMs that decide that they want to launch this eventually. And I would hope that HP and Dell have something coming. I mean, they're missing out if they don't. But hey, if you want to ever have a conversation with somebody about this, about one of the things you could do, give us 16 DIMMs, guys. Let us put 16 DIMMs on this thing so that you can put 2 TB and manage it, and not spend, $10 billion, it feels like, to have 2 TB of RAM. These are the kind of monsters that can utilize that memory. So let's keep that in mind. So backtracking though, it is out. It's got, it talks about 4 TB of NVMe. There's more. They have their NVMe cards. It does have 10 gig on board. It is not the Aquanta NIC this time, I do believe. I'll have to double check that. But it is a new onboard 10 gig. Built in. It does have Wi-Fi. It does have a Wi-Fi card. It does have a 15-to-1 card reader that's available. I mean, keep in mind you're going to have 4 PCI Express X16 slots, 2 PCI Express X8 slots. It is PCI Express 4.0, so that's good to go. It does have Adobe, Autodesk, Avid, Altar, Aviva, ATM, Aviva TM. No, that's not a TM, guys. Come on, it's just Aviva. Bentley, Dassault, NIMS check, PTC and Siemens ISV certifications. Ooh, Energy Star 8.0. It's got an 80 plus platinum power supply in it. And it's great. It should be close to available by now. So we're going to go look and see if it is, so that we can configure one for our lovely setup to compare to the beautiful yet funky 2620 tower. View the 2 models. We're gonna build it. All right. They're only listing the 3000 series still right now, guys. You can still, if you have a Lenovo rep, you can contact them. You can get the 5000 series. But let's utilize the 16 core. All right, to compare. You know what? Screw it. Well, I don't want to use the 32 core because that's way the heck up there. But we'll go with the 16 core. And we'll come down here and
God, that's a huge upgrade going from a
16. I know.
from a going from a 32 to a 64. Jesus.
16 times 8 is 128, so we're gonna get to 128. Ooh, hey, so maybe Apple's competitive here, or maybe Lenovo needs to take notice of this. Because if I got a single A4000 in this box, that's 10 grand. So maybe there's some conversations here that somebody needs to have.
Add $1,600.
Also, something's fishy about this, guys, too. So we're going to go from an A4000 to an A6000, which the street price, guys, yeah, that's not an $8,000 upgrade from a 4000 to a 6000. If somebody at Lenovo is watching this right now,
your pricing's off.
You need to fix this immediately. That's way wrong.
RTX A6000 is supposed to have a retail price of like what, 40 4700.
And I am
Like that?
I'm also not okay with $460 per 16 gig ECC DIMM. That doesn't make a lick of sense either, guys. Come on, Lenovo,
No.
do better.
No. No.
A 16 gig ECC DIMM RDIMM should cost you no more than like $200 a pop, and that's high. That's very high.
Curious. So a 16 gig DDR4 about $100.
No, I'm not. No, I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt here. I could see $200, but not 460. That is pardon my language, but Lenovo, get your shit together here. That's foobar. Quite foobar. And also get your graphics card pricing right. I mean, I was wanting to talk highly about you guys, but I cannot right now because that is ridiculous.
That's robbery.
That's highway robbery. You want something built, guys, call me. I'll build it for cheaper than this.
Call me.
I mean, geez, Louise, that's highway robbery. But we can. This is gonna be. I'm gonna have. I have some contacts at Lenovo and whatnot. I'm gonna have a conversation with them because that don't make that's not a lick of sense. Like I could see the price upgrade from a single A6000 from a single A4000 to twin A6000s being $8,000, 7110. From a tier 1 supplier, which they're saying they're giving you $1,000 off. So I'm saying I could see it from $8,000, 8130 extra to an A4000. I could see that as twin A6000s, not a single. That's ridiculous. And also shut the front door, guys. Who the
Wait, twin
guys?
GB100 is $33,000.
No, I'm not even going to care about the GB100. Why in the flying is anyone selling the RTX 8000 for more than the RTX A6000? Why?
What? It launched for more.
I don't give a shit if it launched for more. It's a 4-year-old card that has less performance than the A6000. Why is the 8000? Somebody needs to fix this website. I mean, seriously.
I mean, I'm expensive, but damn.
You can literally, you can almost buy. All right, we're doing it, guys. We're gonna take this lovely trip down the lane because I'm gonna show you what I mean when I say this because they're available and in stock right now. You can go to video cards and video devices. Go to Workstation graphics cards at newegg.com, which is pretty much a worldwide known company. You can go sold by Newegg just to make it easy, and then you can scroll down just a little bit. Oh, there's the A5000. All right, yep. Here we go. Let's get down to the A6. Oh, there it is. $5,200. You can almost buy 2 of these truckers. And as a matter of fact, if you go back to that stock price, let's do this. We're going to go back to what it came with the P620. If you go back to the P620, or no, heck that, screw that. We're going T600. That's a newer card. If you go to the T600, you can, yeah, I'm sorry. If you can buy 2 freaking A6000s for the price of an 8000, something is just wrong here. Are you really trying to tell me something? And I'm sure that the other OEMs are doing this crap. There's that's not even necessary. You're almost charging the price for you're almost charging an A4000 price. Now, here's the thing. This graphics card costs money too. And you're telling me you're going to charge me the full price of an A6000 just to swap it? If you're telling me that that's because you're wanting to charge some labor towards it, I get that. But what's the A4000 going on Newegg right now?
$1,250.
Yep.
Oh, that price.
Yeah, you're charging more than the price of the card to buy, plus $600, and that T600 that you're trying to sell also has a price value to it. What is going on at these OEMs? Guys, we got to talk. reach out, email us if you want to talk about this, because this is not correct. Like that's highway robbery for graphics cards, guys. That's highway robbery for both your RAM and your oh man, this is a little bit concerning, because this right here, and I'm sure if you have a sales rep and you're buying a bunch of these things, you can buy these for a lot cheaper than you can buy the actual Mac Studios. But if the common man is seeing this and seeing a Mac Studio side by side, I could see why people might go for the Mac Studio. I'm a little bit.
This is just wrong.
I'm a little bit hurt by this.
This is just straight up wrong.
I mean, Lenovo is a good company too. I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me why these prices are the way they are.
11 grand to go from a 16 core to a 64 core.
Nothing about this makes any sense to me, Chris. Nothing does. I don't know what to say anymore. Like I didn't see this coming. It is what it is. But thank God for competition. Thank God for competition. I mean, the Zen 3 version of Threadripper is out, guys. I'm going to bring the Tom's Hardware article up real quick, because that's an important one to look at, because it talks about it more. This is where you ought to be going. You ought to be going after these things. And yes, they did supply us with some comparisons between the 38-core Xeon W. And once again, if you have a Intel-based workflow, I get it. I get why you would go with that. If you don't have an Intel-based workflow, I mean, Threadripper Pro is going to be the best bang for the buck. I'm going to imagine that the 32 core is, I mean, because let's just look at it this way. The 32 core, nobody's selling Xeon W, which kills me. I mean, there's very few people out there. I mean, you are, Chris, but I'm talking tier 1 OEMs. Right. Your Dell, your HP, your Lenovo, nobody's selling Xeon W. So which is a crying shame to begin with. But I mean, from a value perspective, if these Threadripper Pro prices are appropriate, which I think they will be, AMD's not gotten quite too big for their britches, I don't think. But if they are, then this makes sense. You know, this will get people where they want it to be. And that's just, you know, that is what it is. All that being said, though, we're gonna kind of move on, shift gears a little bit. So there is a Tom's Hardware article here, and we're going to talk about this one. So ECC Memory and Consumer Alder Lake with a W680 chipset. That's a good thing. Which, I mean, ECC. So let's all right. We're going to talk about this for a second here and get into the weeds of it. But ECC typically pairs with higher capacity DIMMs, just because they're ECC. So this is a good thing. I mean, it's a good little factor to keep in mind. It's basically the Z690 chipset with a couple of caveats and ECC support. And that's good to know, because I mean, we've already kind of seen the HEDT line basically is dead from Intel. There isn't going to be a new Intel X299 upgrade per se.
I just wondered. I'm wondering if you can use like 64, 128, and 256 gig DIMMs on this chipset.
So it all depends on if it's UDIM or RDIM, and if it supports LRDIM. LRDIMs are the ones that get those super high capacities. Right. Would I see them going 64, 128? Probably, if it's got RDIM support, but maybe not 256 and higher. But we'll see. I mean, it could.
That would enable Alder Lake builds with more than 128 gig RAM faster then DDR5 high capacity is available.
Yeah.
Throw that out there.
And Houston, it's DDR4 ECC compatible. There's going to be W680 chipsets that support DDR4 ECC memory, which means, oh, by the way, you could get 128 gig DIMM chips right now of that.
Yeah. They're expensive, but yes.
But, I mean, if somebody wanted 512 gigs of RAM on a 12th gen processor, they've got a way to do it right now. And we've all seen that DDR5 and DDR4 right now really don't have that much of a difference.
Nope.
I mean, granted, so here's where this matters. Okay? You're not going to have the same throughput as an X299 type platform. You don't have the same number of PCI Express lanes. That's okay in a lot of workstations, though. Most workstations don't come with SLI graphics cards, right?
Yeah. We're doing mostly like one graphics card.
Yep. But here's what you get, though. You get, okay, so you're getting 16 PCI Express 3.0 ports off the chipset. You know, and you're getting 12 PCI Express 4.0. So 4 NVMe's, you know, so you could use that X16 slot that's 3.0 compatible and put you 3 X16 or 3 X4 4 X4 NVMe drives in an X16 slot there. Guess what you got right here? You got the ability to have 5 NVMe drives on board. Plus, you're also going to get 2.5 gigabit Ethernet on board. You're going to get, where is my SATA? 8 SATA 6 gig ports. So, 8 of them on a board. That, I mean, there's a lot of potential for these things. That now, once again, 4 terabyte 13 3 gig or 3.0 cards. That's pretty decent, y'all. I mean, to me at least. That's 3-4 terabyte card or 3-4 terabyte pieces. And you don't have to do 3 terabytes. You can do a 4 terabyte in there as long, and the card's just 3.0. You know, the card's 3.0, but you got the Gen 4 ones that are 4.0 compatible, but you know, you're just running them at Gen 3 speeds, but you're buying the 4 terabyte sticks. So I mean, you get 16 terabytes plus whatever you put for your actual OS drive. You know, 4 terabytes for your OS as well. I mean, that 2 terabytes for an OS to me is more than plenty, especially on stuff like I do. But that to me seems, sorry, but I'm kind of behind this now. Now, once again, this is supposed to be a workstation platform. So it's designed. This is your CAD build right here, guys. This is a CAD build. Because, like I said, if you even 64 gig DIMMs that are available from DDR3 right now. Hello, 64 gig DIMMs are pretty. They're not that expensive.
I get those for 64 gig.
Don't
200.
No, I'm. Don't tell us what you get them for. Tell them what the person that would buy them for would be.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, take what you got and add something to it. I mean, be realistic then. That's what I'm getting at. Be realistic here, though.
$400.
But that's a 256 gig build right now.
Oh.
On a 12th gen core, you know, that's going to destroy a 10980XE and have the same amount of memory. Hello, that's pretty damn awesome to me.
And it runs colder.
And it's got more overclocking potential too. I mean, it's going to, but quite literally, yes, it loses AVX 512. Once again, if you need AVX 512, guys, if you're not going Xeon right now, then that's your own fault. We got to wait till Zen 4 for AVX 512 apparently. But dude, this is like, we got to find, you know, Threadripper Pro is that, and that's the thing. I'm gonna go back to the original part of the discussion. Threadripper Pro right now, the Core Wars are out there. If you need like a simple CAD build, though, this makes sense. obviously you don't need a simple CAD build if you're doing like massive model Epic Games, for instance. Great example. The work they do, they need Threadripper Pro, and they need that PCI Express gen setups. But I mean, that's huge. Like, I don't understand why we've got the Core Wars right now are great. I mean, yes, I'm sure Intel is preparing something with Sapphire Rapids that might compete with Threadripper Pro, but it's not out yet. And this Threadripper Pro CPU to me is just kind of I'm looking forward to it. I really am. But this is a great platform too. I mean, this is something to me that kind of eliminates a little bit of that Zen 3 Ryzen platform. Not lots, but enough to say, hey, here's that in between. Here's something that's workstation focused. I mean, because think about it, guys. So most CAD applications, highly single thread. This makes sense there. Most CAD applications are are not highly multi-threaded. And the ones that are, obviously, where are you going to go? Threadripper. I mean, if you're doing something in Unity or Unreal, I have to back up. I did test with it. I tested Threadripper Pro 3000 in some Unreal Engine 4 and Engine 5 application-based setups. And it stomps the ever-loving mess out of it, because if you've got more cores, it just destroys it. It truly does. Like, this is not the kind of platform you're going to be looking at if that's what you're doing. But all that being said, so we've got another workstation option out here, guys. Okay, on to the next topic. And we almost have to be, because this is what's amazing. And I'm going to bring up the second one, actually. The second one's the one where it's actually revealed. Hopper. And this is going to lead us to our GPU conversation on a lot of things. So Hopper is Intel's
big dog.
Big dog. First of all, let's go down here and talk about the power. I gotta go find it again. H100 starts with 80 gigs of HBM. It's 100.
I wonder if they're gonna do a 160. Like, do with the A100, like the 40 gig to 80 gig, 80 gig 160. I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, so it's using HBM3, not HBM2E, with 3 terabytes a second of bandwidth. Then you've got new instructions associated with it. Okay, what is this product for, guys? First and foremost,
data center.
It's
AI.
It's for people that do. Honestly, I keep leaning back to those people that probably already bought Epic Milan X processors. It's that kind of compute. It's really designed right now to compete with the MI250X from AMD, which is the Instinct setup. But those things are also a really like those, once again, data center super Infinity Fabric type connections. I mean, pull tons of power. All right, so the SXM variant is 700 watt compared to the 400 watt SXM A100. That's 75% more power for those of you doing math. There is going to be a PCI Express card version of this that will draw, I think it was like 350 watts or 300 watts. I'll have to look again and see if I can find it.
Yep.
It's a lower power draw. But they say that it's not that much of a loss in performance, but it's just that you got to lower the thermal output, which is fine. So yes, it might peak speed faster, but it's going to draw far less overall power, which is okay. So I mean, that's just the way you want to look at it. Like I said, it's HBM3, which is great. 16 gigs per HBM3 package, so it's a lot of. There's a lot of memory there, guys. More than you would think. Gosh, it's just a ton. But you can hook them up and basically get a lot of capacity together. we're talking about this now. I'm sure AMD is getting ready to launch their next gen data center product because they did it about. They launched the. When did they? Okay, I'm gonna scroll up there and see if this tells me when they launched the MI250X. November. So that's that. I mean, so let's think about this. If that was in November, AMD's got something around the corner. 6 months ago, I mean, 5 months ago, this isn't going to compete with this very long. You know, that's just be aware of that. The Instinct 250X is. I mean, if they've got the 350 coming, they've got to have the 300 coming soon. So I mean, that's just. And keep in mind, it was destroying, the 250 was destroying A100 pretty heavily. But this is, I mean, these are supercomputer type processors doing like data center computations that are absolutely ridiculous. None of us will ever buy these things personally. I mean, would I love to test a box with them just to see what kind of power they have? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that I ever will. It's not going to be. And keep in mind, this is CUDA optimized. So, I mean, if you're doing something like this, this is for the CUDA optimized data centers. You know, Instinct probably owns the others because there's a product. And also, keep this in mind as well. They announced it. It won't be available till at least the end of Q3. They just announced it, guys. I mean, they're waiting on, and I'm going to cough very loudly, a Gen 3, Gen 5 compatible PCI Express CPU. So now I'm told by reading into it that it's Grace that they're looking at when the Grace CPU will be ready. But what's another Gen 5 compatible CPU that's coming from Intel? Sapphire Rapids. So there's some instinct that, I mean, you could take into saying, hey, we're just waiting for the next gen CPUs so that we can utilize that bandwidth. And that's great that they're waiting on that. But why announce something like that? Companies are just announcing things to announce them at this point. Obviously.
You know, I saw a bit.
Go ahead.
I saw a bit on that about well, one of the other topics that we have, how this industry is, and the comment was that how this industry is starting to veer towards paper launches that don't mean anything, and then the actual hardware availability is so much not connected to the paper launch. Like, then what's the point?
To tell somebody you have something better than them. AMD,
which is stupid.
But the reason for it is because competition is finally back. We finally have competition, Chris. We didn't have this 6 months ago. A year ago. We didn't have it. We couldn't. The competition couldn't. I mean, their products weren't in development. And now, yes, all this could slip. So let's be realistic. If Grace isn't ready, or if Intel isn't ready in 6 months, guess what, guys? These things are all going to slip. And if Hopper slips to late Q4, guess what? That MI300 probably will launch. And maybe AMD's smart and is like, hey, we're going to make this PCI Express 4.0. We're going to give it PCI Express 5.0, but we know we're going to get massive benefits on 4.0 as well until 5.0 is ready. So we're just going to go ahead and launch it with 5.0 with 4.0 compatibility. The SXM cards, I mean, yeah, you're not going to find that on a 4.0 board. You just won't. I mean, that's the thing. Now, okay, I gotta look this up so I can mention it, because at GDC, which is the a pretty big conference as well, there was another announcement. And I want to bring this up because it's a Tom's Hardware article, so I'm going to send it to you so that you can put it in the chat. Copy. And now, I'll just put it in the chat myself. Make it easy.
Sure.
Let me switch back, because this is important. NVIDIA is in talks with using Intel as a foundry. This could be interesting. So AMD has long partnered with TSMC because TSMC bought so much of the EUV market. So we need to take back it and have a manufacturing talk here, Chris. I think now is the time to have this. So, have you ever heard of something called ASML? A company called ASML?
Oh yeah.
They are the only company that manufactures EUV, which is extreme ultraviolet, which is what prints the chips that we buy right now. They're the only people that make an EUV machine. They're already working on their next gen, and guess who bought up the first 5 machines of it? Intel.
Didn't Intel? Yep.
Intel said, guess what? We don't want to screw this up again. We're going to buy the capacity of your first high NA, which is supposed to be what gets us down to sub-nanometer, angstrom nano, level products. So if Intel's going to be the first to produce that, and I'm NVIDIA, I'm already on that conversation wagon with them to buy some of that capacity, to possibly buy some of that capacity early on for our data center and so on chips. Here's the thing. Jensen, confirmed that AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA, they all talk amongst themselves about what's going on in the future. Shockingly, they all know what's coming. Now, through series of NDAs and disclosure agreements, I'm sure that the AMD CPU team isn't talking to the AMD GPU team. Because I feel like that would be, but at the same time, they probably are. There's probably somebody in there's probably talking. And the AMD CPU team or GPU team is probably talking to the Intel team too. And the Intel team's talking to NVIDIA at the same time. I mean, realistically, when you start to look at how all these companies work with each other, and now Intel's wanting to be a fab to fabricate stuff for other people, you could see AMD chips built on Intel fabs. And with this UCI Express chip interconnect that they're talking about for chiplet designs.
Standard, yeah.
Yeah, this new standard that they're discussing. We literally could see chips from AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA all on the same package. Maybe Intel makes a really good security processor, and those SoC designs that you see Apple making right now, all of a sudden you've got these, because realistically, Apple's market share has grown so much in recent years that's one of the biggest competitors to these guys. ARM and Apple ARM isn't really the competitor, it's Apple. So they've got to look for ways, because Apple has started to take over the actual workplace a lot heavier than most people think. I mean, what if all of a sudden you started seeing, all your generic general purpose computers going to Apple? Because the M1, like a MacBook Pro 13-inch M1 or M2 or whatever the next gen version is, M19, I don't care, M1.5. Like, what if all of a sudden the general purpose compute, that is a market share that these guys are afraid of. And with everybody and their brother concerned about security, I could see that in a heartbeat. I could see everybody and their brother having that stuff happen in a heartbeat. Now, will it be difficult for certain large corporations? Yeah, because a lot of their applications are x86 based. But it could happen. And I tell you, another one is, if you're afraid of that and you're all starting to work together, this is the perfect opportunity to see. I mean, because the low-cost computer market is filled with nothing but a CPU with an integrated GPU. That's somewhere that NVIDIA doesn't exist at all.
Nope.
So if NVIDIA wants to exist in that marketplace, hey, Intel, your low-end laptop GPUs have sucked for years. What if we start developing some integrated graphics for y'all and start putting using UCI, we put our two graphics cards together, our two IPs together. And Intel starts selling chips with NVIDIA graphics on board because they can make them cheaply enough with them integrated in the same package. That's something that we could see. AMD could do the same thing. Say, hey, we want to have, because everything starts moving to this chiplet process, or this tile process, as NVIDIA's calling it. With all that movement to smaller and smaller process nodes and whatnot, that's where you're going to see this, guys. I mean, people do want options, but they also want them to be cost competitive. And right now, there aren't a whole lot of cost competitive options out there. Nux being the cheapest little integrated desktop. I mean, that's where we're going. Like, not everybody needs a desktop that has, dual A6000s. Not everybody needs a laptop. Now, this is where we're going to talk about something you sent me earlier, and I can't bring it up because I don't have a way to put it up on the screen, but that's okay. But we got to talk about this. So Chris, you had a customer that came to you, and they were asking about laptops,
which happens a fair amount, as you might imagine.
Yep, and that's true. It is. But where is it? Okay. If there's somebody out there that wants to see a Ice Lake Xeon or a Threadripper Pro processor put into a laptop, I think you're missing the point here.
The thing draws like 300 watts.
Okay.
Itself.
Hang on. I've got a perfect example right behind me. For anybody that doesn't know what this is a power adapter for a high-end laptop. It's made by Dell. This is for their best and brightest of laptops. It's a 240 watt power adapter. Pretty much anything over this size that uses the power adapter of more than this size uses two power adapters. What you really want to have, because you have to have the power supply external if you wanted to do that. Now, if you wanted to build a laptop with an internal power supply, you're talking a suitcase sized machine. Porting and carrying that around, I'm not a big fan of that idea.
You'd have to have, like, because an ATX power supply would be way too big. You'd almost have to go with like a server style, like a 1U, and those are very loud.
Sounds like
Not
a turbojet.
Expensive as heck.
Yeah, so you're making your costs there. Laptops is the one area right now, and I've had this conversation with my AMD rep for years. I love him to death because he's super smart. But he and I used to talk about this because, like, laptops is where innovation has kind of stalled recently. All right, so Intel's the only person that's moved in a laptop direction to give us more than 8 cores and 16 threads. Conversations he and I have discussed, there's rumors out there, and he and I have discussed the rumors that maybe AMD comes out with a low power 16 or a potential low power 16 core Zen 4, Zen 5 type competitor. There's rumors, and like I said, we're not discussing things that are outside of that rumor mill. We're not going to go into things. I don't know what could be out there. And because the way his opportunity inside the business development end, he doesn't know everything either, and he can't tell me everything either, and I don't want him to. But realistically, 8 cores, 16 threads is where we've been stalled at. Now, I'm hoping that that AMD comes up with something to do like not a big little, but that's the other thing about UCX that could be cool, is maybe you see a laptop that is low power, that's high power but low power at the same time. So maybe you see a laptop that has ARM cores for that low power work, and then has 8 AMD Zen 5.9. I'm throwing numbers out there. Has 8 AMD cores out there that's high power. 8 and 16 threads, but it's got another 8 ARM cores on it to handle that low power workload. Basically, and the way I'm thinking about this, guys, is you unplug your laptop and you watch the CPU processor speed drop off like a rock. Because it's got to do everything off battery, and you want that battery to last as long as possible. So what happens if, all right, you've got a process that can run on an ARM core because it can do that. You unplug the laptop, and no longer are you using your high-powered AMD cores. You're just using ARM cores, or low power. You're just using low-power ARM cores. Same thing goes with Intel. They've got this hybrid architecture now. You're not using the P cores. You're using the E cores only now. Until you go back on power, and then all of a sudden you have the ability to use those P cores again. And it means that you can reduce your battery size, get your weight down. Laptops haven't seen a lot of development because, Intel used to say it all the time. It's so funny to hear it out loud again. You don't really need more than 4 cores and 8 threads to do most general purpose computing. And that statement to this day is still pretty damn true. 4 cores and 8 threads. I mean, the i5s of yesteryear, the R5s and so on, the U series processors, 2 to 4 cores and 8 threads, and 4 to 8 threads. If all you're doing is Microsoft Word, that kind of stuff, you really and truly don't need a whole lot of power. I mean, browsing the internet. Now,
let's see. So I'm running 4 tabs in Chrome.
Yep.
And Teams on a video call, which is different than Teams in chat. And my Ryzen 7 3800X 8 core is between 10 and 30% use.
All right, I have an 18 core. I'm running this stream on an 18 core 1090XE. I'm getting ready to do some swapping over to that 3970X that I've got because that's going to be fun. But it's just 27 to 28. I'm running the stream, guys. I have Teams open to have this discussion. I have this chat, the conversation between you and us Teams. I've got 10 or 12 Chrome tabs open. I've got OBX Streamlabs open. And I've got a capture source that's running at the same time. I'm using 30% of an 18 core. Like, guys, just gonna throw this out there for you. It doesn't take a lot of power to do things. So take away Streamlabs, take away all that other stuff. I mean, here you go. Here's that performance manager for you so you can see it. Here's what's using the most.
And you're running the stream on the processor or on the video card?
It tells you right now it's going on the CPU.
Wow.
Streamlabs is eating the most of the CPU right now, guys. Just so you're aware. It's eating 18% of it.
Like half of the load.
More than half.
So
like 40%. Like 60% of the load is Streamlabs.
So if you take away the stream, if you take away the podcast,
yeah,
you're at like 14%.
Exactly.
And 14% of an 18 core is roughly 2.5 cores.
Yeah. And I'm also over here trying to figure out what the heck this is doing. It's using Block level backup engine. Oh, it must be backing up my hard disk. My computer's backing up the disk right now. Those of you wondering. At the same time, guys, it doesn't take that much compute. The processes have gotten better, and this is on a 4-year-old design chip from 2018. So, hello. There's nothing in this process that says you can't run this stuff on a modern 4-core, 8-thread processor with enough RAM. RAM is the problem, always. I have a 4-core 8-thread laptop from work that only has 8 gigs of RAM. The bottleneck isn't the CPU. The bottleneck's RAM. It doesn't have enough RAM to store stuff, so it's constantly having to pull things in and out, so the CPU gets overworked. But if you've got a 16 or 24 or 32 gig laptop that's got 4 cores and 8 threads, 16 gigs is what I would say is optimal. But if you got a 16 gig laptop with 4 cores and 8 threads, or, you know, let's be realistic, let's say you get a 6-core, 12-thread machine.
Yep.
Or go with Alder Lake, and, you know, Alder Lake's got like the 2 P-core, 4-thread with 8 E-cores. Same difference. And those are like 12-watt packages. I mean, guys, there's opportunities to reduce your need for CPU utilization. Obviously, the other cool thing too with the UCE is coprocessors. Things that do things just specifically and do them very freaking well. That's one of the things. Do you know what a DPU is?
I've heard that term before.
It's a data processing unit.
I figured, yeah.
All it is a processing, is something like a CPU on top of a NIC that is designed to offload the data transfer protocol from your drive on board. So think about this one. When I click Mellanox,
is that similar? That's similar to what NVIDIA put on the H100.
Yep. Well, it's not on the H100 itself. It's on the H100 boards.
Yes.
It's a NVIDIA Bluefield DPU is what it is.
That's cool.
And all its job is, and this is the future of things. Imagine a DPU on SoC. This is where I think NVIDIA and AMD and Intel are going to start partnering on like actual designs. Like imagine this DPU, for instance. Just step back. Imagine a DPU, and I think AMD got some. Who was the brand that AMD bought recently? Xilinx.
Yeah.
Xilinx. They did the same thing. They're a networking company.
Yeah.
So AMD's getting ready to make these too. But imagine if you had a DPU on board of your on SoC. So what that does is that means that when I go to transfer 100 gigs of data, which the data that we're absorbing right now is just exponentially increasing. But imagine that when I go to, so think about like smart cars, for instance. You put a DPU on board with the CPU of that smart car, and you need to download the data because something weird happened when in self-driving mode, right? Because there's LiDAR scanners, there's vision systems that are all running in the background, all right? So you put a DPU on board that, and all of a sudden, when you get back, it just starts to transfer, and it doesn't hit the CPU with any load to transfer that data. You know, hundreds of gigs of data that it gets to pick up, straight that way. You plug your car into the wall, and part of that plug is going to have a 10 gig Ethernet on it, and all of a sudden, data's moving off through the DPU. That's what it's going to. That's the future of electric cars. Is that not only will you have a power connection to plug them in and charge them at night, you're going to have a data connection so they can communicate with home base. And get updates for their vision systems, updates for their LiDAR systems to make sure that the self-driving functionality is better. and everything's going to go through a port on that machine. I mean, I'm surprised it's not happening now, but that's the way it's going to be, because that's how progress occurs, by being able to look at data, reflect on data, and move forward with data. Like where I work right now, they're building a massive data transfer system for this exact purpose. Using web services and whatnot to be able to help handle this stuff. Eventually, DPUs are going to be ingrained into everything. And so system level chips like that on SoCs, on system on a chip designs, but system level chips like that are going to have to be integrated more often. And that's just something we got to think about. That's going to be our new normal. I got a comment, and I got to provide a little update on our rant from earlier with Lenovo. And I got a comment from a buddy of mine. So he's saying list prices on those things are usually marked up to show big discounts off list. I appreciate his comment, but why have that list price then? I mean, because there's and I say it this way, and I'm going to reach out to my contact at Lenovo and have a conversation with him about that, specifically for this, because Joe Schmo, did I tell you about the IT guy? I know I told you about this directly, but I'm going to share this story. I'm not an IT guy. I am not your typical IT guy. I don't work in IT. But I have to work with them on a regular basis. And I had done something to a computer the other day. I had changed the subnet on it to be able to configure something to reach out to a specific website to get a driver update for a VR headset, right? Well, all in all, I forgot to change the subnet back. But it doesn't hurt the computer, because it doesn't, it's the firewalls and all that stuff, it works just fine. However, it meant that if someone had updated their password or whatnot, then the computer wasn't pinging out to, because the subnet was changed, wasn't pinging out to the right, not subnet, sorry, DNS server. You ever use like the 1.1.1.1 DNS?
Mm-hmm.
Or change to Google's specific DNS instead of just use your own?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I had done. I changed the DNS server, and it wouldn't let someone remote into it, and that was fine. IT techs over there like, yeah, I can't get this thing in. I think I have to re-image it. I was like, did you try rebooting it first? Why? Rebooting a machine should factory reset in our world, should reset the IP and DNS server. I didn't try that. Guess what? It works. IT, all the time you can laugh at this. IT technicians will always tell you, half the really good ones just know how to Google things better than us. That's the truth about IT. Half your really good IT people just know how to Google something better. And if they don't know the answer to something, they reach out in a forum and ask. And somebody else usually will find the answer for them. That's got a more, because most IT technicians aren't computer engineers. If they were, they wouldn't be IT technicians. They got they got certifications. They're smart people. And they're smart people because they know how to research. That's why they're smart. They know how to look for the answer. So I say this to say, not all Joe Schmo procurement folks are going to go out and go, hey, this is telling me that this list price is this amount of money. And I'm talking about your small, low-level shops, not your Epic Games or your Dominion Energy or your, not these massive companies. Like they have their own account managers with all these things. They reach out to them and talk directly to them and say, hey, what can you give me for this? And they'll tell them, and they almost always sell it to them at a much lower price than that list price. But to have that as the list price just hurts. because there's somebody at a company right now that's making a decision based on what they see on a website. I've done it before, guys. I have. I've said, nope, going to the next one. Nope, going to the next one. Nope, going to the next one. I've also gotten quotes from some big companies that were fairly close to those prices. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to call a company out for being terrible at a quote for something. But yeah, I mean, I have seen companies that will make bad quotes because they get the list prices too off the website sometimes. That's not a list price though. That's like the list price, no, not subtracting what else you were buying first. And like, all right, we're gonna go back and look at it.
That was just mean.
That's not the list price of an A6000. I mean, we know what the manufacturer's suggested retail price is. Anyone that can do a very small amount of Googling should be able to tell you that there's something wrong with that number. Now, yes, I agree with you. I agree with my buddy. They will, give you a better discount. They will, 100%. But that's highway robbery.
Yeah. So a 30. I think there was a image on the Lenovo site that was like it was on the processor, and Tweaktown says published about a year and a change ago, so late January last year.
No, I don't even have to go to that. I've already got it up over here. In the 3000 series Threadripper Pros.
Yeah, so the 64 core launched supposedly for $5,500 roughly. Are you charging $11,000?
The 3995 WX was $5,489.
Yeah,
that's double. That's what I'm saying. Like this is the kind of thing that and to this commenter's point, this is the kind of thing that drives people away from buying this processor from Lenovo.
Yeah.
It's because they'll see this on the web. Because before I even ask for a quote, I have to put an estimate together. How do I put an estimate together if I go out there and see this is the price for it on the website? And that's no, hold up, Chris. Hold up, Chris. It's not that. It's more than double. Because that was put it on the 3995, the 3955. When it's set on the base model processor, the price increase is $12,000. That doesn't subtract the price of what the actual original processor will cost. That's I mean, and like I said, if I'm going out to try to make an estimate for what I need to buy a machine is, and I don't have a contact, or let's say I'm a personal user who wants one of these to be able to do a machine together, yeah, I could go to Newegg and try to buy it, but okay, this gets back to the discussion you and I were going to have earlier. Chris, your distributor told you that they don't make the 3000 series Threadripper Pro processors anymore, right? Fill us in on that. Fill us in on that logic.
Yeah. So Threadripper, that's just like to be restricted to only buying what is still like on the boat or in the shelf, and then once that's gone, it's gone. And as supply goes down and there's no supply being made, what happens to pricing? It's just so pricing goes up, lead time goes up, and it just makes it really hard to help those people that are best helped with that specific product.
And so what do? You end up pushing them towards Xeon W.
Yeah, if you need the high core count, yeah.
or if you need the high RAM count,
Or yeah,
or if you need high,
it's actually better.
high RAM's the way I like to look at it. If you need anything other than 128 gigs of RAM, you end up having to go Xeon W or Xeon or Ice Lake Xeon in general.
Yeah.
And then if you need to go high core count, you kind of have to go dual socket Xeon because there's no processor out there that's readily available is one solution too, and one and two because and this is because of Lenovo's exclusivity, guys. So Lenovo has an exclusivity period, 3, 6, 12 months. Don't know exactly how long it is. It was like 6 months on the last one before it was available. For the OEM, for like non OEM Lenovo to do this, and I get this. I understand this process, but to stop building Zen 3 Threadripper Pros for the other OEMs out there and have the cost and supply go up for them. And I'm not saying you got to build a bunch of them, but even if you left them built to order, hey, I call my distributor calls AMD, AMD sells them to me.
Yeah, like tell me it's gonna be like a 4-week lead time and pricing is normal, or pricing is 10% more. I can work with a lead time.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully not a 4-month lead time, but
Well, yeah. I mean, 4 weeks,
just
and let's be realistic. 4 weeks. Let's say it is a 10% increase because guess what? You got to ship it via plane now. Okay, so you're shipping via plane versus shipping via boat. So you've got a 3-week lead time because you're shipping via plane now, right? That makes sense. But to cancel it out for all those folks, I mean, it means that there's a 3-month period, Chris, 4-month period, 6-month period, 9-month period, at least a 3, maybe even a 6 or 9, that you're going to have to sit out here because, and I say 3 because in 3 months, technically somewhere around there is when Sapphire Rapids were here and supposed to launch based on rumors. But it's at least a 3-month period you got to wait before you can sell a high core count machine that makes sense for a workstation to people. That's got AMD built in it, or that's got Sapphire Rapids or something with the single socket workstations. What I'm getting at.
Right.
I mean, rumor mills all fly around, but that's kind of a and as a system integrator and OEM yourself, that kind of it makes it harder for you to be able to sell Threadripper Pro for 3, 6, 9, whatever the month count is out there.
So that's and that's just on the Pro line.
Well,
on the non-Pro line, it's actually worse. Like it looks like there is no Zen 3 upgrade for regular Threadripper, which if you haven't noticed, we don't list non-Pro Threadripper on the website.
Makes sense.
Because you won't get that Zen 3 upgrade, which, I mean, yes, if you upgrade the core count, you'll get more cores, but if you don't care about the cores, then you're going to be stuck with whatever you have.
And also, it's not going to take the benefits of the IPC upgrades that Zen 3 has. I mean, I've read some reviews. I'm waiting to hopefully get a test unit in to be able to talk more about it. But based just solely on the reviews, Zen 3 is a big uplift, like 15 to 20% IPC.
I remember when we went from when the Ryzen's upgraded from
Yep.
to the XX50X, so the 3950X to the 5950, that one costs a lot, and we didn't sell a lot of them. But the 3900X to the 5900X, when Ryzen 5000 was available, it started beating Intel in a lot of things because the IPC boost was there. And I mean, you just look at the wall of processors. We sold predominantly Ryzen for like 2 years, and it was mostly the 5900X. To not have that, that Zen 3 upgrade, Threadripper non-Pro. So, and the reason why it's bad to not have it on non-pro is it forces somebody to go to pro, which, if they're okay with spending a lot of money on the processor for whatever reason, and they don't need, more than 64 or 128 gigs of RAM, which is fine for a lot of stuff. But one of the biggest changes from non-pro to pro is the motherboard cost. Non-pro Threadripper board is typically like $400 to $500. The pro board is like $800 to $1,000. That's like a $400 upgrade, which you have to do if you want the Zen 3 upgrade. But you don't need any of the functionality on the pro board. Like, it makes it a very hard sell.
So I'm looking at the sold by Newegg version. Also, they now have 2 versions of the Sage. Oh, that's the open box. Yeah, so the Sage board. Now, you could get a Super Micro. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, but it's comparing it to like a TRX 40 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi, which is fantastic, and $400.
Oh, I agree. You're not gonna. We're not gonna have that argument where I disagree on this setup. I mean, that's just the way it is. But like, I mean, you've got the STRX 40 versus the SWRX 80. What is that actual? Oh, that's in servers. I gotta go check servers for that. And back components. Motherboards. STRX80. Where are you, STRX80? Oh, heck, I'll think this up. Why didn't you give me a CPU standard, not a socket standard? What's STRX80's, that's STRX80 is the thing. What's the socket? Is it just XTRX4? SWRX8?
STRX4 PC part picker.
I'm just trying to find the actual pinout count on there.
It's the i7.
It's an LGA.
It's STRX4.
STRX8 is the workstation, not STRX4.
Oh, it's wow.
But I'm trying to find
it's different stock.
All right, I'm just going to do this. Max supported memory. No, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to find like the board that here's an Epic Milan. That's Epic Rome. And that supports Milan. I mean, you could, I guess that doesn't have a chipset. This is so hard to find what I want to find right now. All right, we'll do it this way. Newegg, sold by Newegg. Click on that one. What I'm wanting to do is find the Super Micro workstation board that they have. They have a Super Micro version. And I want to find it because it gives me this. So it's right here. It's called M12 SWATF. Super Micro. Go to. We're going to sort it by the highest price for Super Micro.
Yeah. M12 SWA.
Yeah.
TF. Yep. TFO is $592. Oh, I can buy up to 5.
Give me the count. This thing right here. Copy. Paste. All right, I'm gonna change it back so I can see what I'm looking at too. All right.
I mean, that's That's less expensive than a Sage, yes. By like, I think the Sage goes for upwards of 5. Well,
But it's on.
I think
Keep in mind, it's six. It's 6 slots, and so as opposed to 7. Does it have Wi-Fi? No. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of other features. It does have dual LAN, but what's the dual LAN? It's
I
got a
don't
10.
think
It's got 10
it
gig on
doesn't
board.
have, and it doesn't have the heat sinks on the M2 slots. None.
I mean, that's. But realistically, guys, that's. I don't have a heatsink on a single M.2 that I have. Just gonna tell you that doesn't matter. You just put it in a case with airflow, it doesn't matter. That's the thing. Put it in a case with airflow, you're good to go. And that's on Gen 4 and Gen 3. Doesn't really matter. Put it in a case, it's got some airflow, doesn't matter. We're good to go. All that being said, though, so here's an option for you. But realistically, though, going back to the same thing you just said, like there's not the same kind of selection and options, and it doesn't have the same number of ports. I do like its look, though. It does have U.2 on board. Does it have U.2 on board?
Not sure.
I'm going to look. See what it's got. 486s. 4 M.2s. It does. It has 2. This has 2 U.2 slots.
But still, like,
it's not the same. Call it what you want to call it. It's not the same.
not getting the Zen 3 upgrade on non-pro really sucks.
But okay, let's backtrack though. We just looked at that workstation board. We just looked at this. Let's assume that AMD's got something like this down the line. This kind of satisfies it, Chris. This 12th gen.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of satisfies that perspective. If AMD would do this for Ryzen, because then once again, if you need more RAM, you can get more RAM. Just bigger DIMMs. It's a little bit more expensive, a little cost prohibitive, but at the same time,
I think Ryzen supports ECC.
It's UDIMM only. Unregistered DIMM ECC, so it's still only 32 gigs. It's not RDIMM. So if this supports, yep.
Yeah, I was seeing it used for like NAS. Type stuff.
But let's get back to the conversation we were just talking about. If AMD's got something like this coming down the pipes, especially for Zen 4, I mean they probably don't for Zen 3, but let's say they come out with something like this for Zen 4, because we're that close to Zen 4's launch, or rumored launch. If anyone out there knows when Zen 4 launches, please feel free to email us. We'd love to know, because that'd be another conversation topic altogether. I mean, rumored at the end of the year, if you want to go out there on the internet and research. But we're so close to Zen 4 and Meteor Lake's launches that if this is true and this supports DDR4 ECC RDIMM, not LRDIMM, just RDIMM. This is, even if it's DDR5 RDIMM, and DDR5 gets even higher capacities, but if that's what we're talking about here, guys, this is the HEDT platform of the future. Is a high core count consumer grade CPU with additional RAM and enough PCI Express and SATA connections for you to survive. Maybe it doesn't support U.2, but it does support Wi-Fi 6E. And it does support 2.5 gig Ethernet on board. And it does support Intel Rapid Storage technology, so that means that you can do RAID 0 things. It supports the Intel Optane storage technology. I mean, this is the future of the platform, I would think. I mean, is it going to support a lot of things? Yeah, sure. But it is what it is. All that being said, I think that covers about everything. I mean, art graphics cards coming out with the low end stuff. That's nothing for us to talk about. Although there is a rumored, well, it's not rumored. They also mentioned that they're going to come out with a workstation art low end card too. I think to get back to Intel's release strategy, they know they're not going to be in the high end. I think, and so I think since they know that, they're not going to like push it.
Yeah, I think if the highest card that they do for consumer is like a 3070, and if it's priced good, if it performs good, and you can get it in a normal amount of time, we're still starved for cards.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I think we've been live for an hour and 44 minutes, so this is going to be something for people to talk about. Guys, email us. Put the link tree in the description or in the comments real quick, Chris. Is it in the description? I think it is. It is. The link tree's in the description, guys. If you want to comment and send us something, send us an email, send us a chat, feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. We definitely want to know what you guys think, what some future topics you want to hear on and more. It's going to be fun, y'all. But we'll wrap this one up by saying the CPU wars are heating up. Threadripper Pro 5000 is going to make some differences. But hopefully, me and Chris will get some opportunities to test some new ones here pretty soon. And we'll be able to report back on how they go. But until then, stay classy. I am Brad Medlin. He is Chris Touchberry.
I'm Chris Touchberry.
Yeah, he's Chris. He's touching a berry. he is the resident dad joke authority. So